It's another edition of The Probe. Good evening and welcome to this edition. Tonight we are focusing on education, and why not? Because this week, if you've been monitoring, or should I say last week, we've been very heavy on education. We've been giving you Crumbling Start put together by the team Emmanuel Jivenu. Of course, the same last week we saw the start of the National Consultative Forum, or should I say the National Education Forum here in Ghana. It started in the Volta region. Well, they are taking views from stakeholders when it comes to education. It was in the manifesto of the NDC government, and of course it's kick-started taking all the views when it comes to education, what reforms we can undertake when it comes to the area of education. But in Crumbling Start particularly, in this day and age, we still have children that are studying, or pupils I should say, without teachers, to the extent that volunteers that are supposed to be taking these children through school are teaching them the wrong things. That is why I find it very important that we focus on education tonight. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to education. And of course, we have some figures that we'll go through, and then we can get talking all the details right here on The Probe with me, Emefa Apau. We are live on the Joy News channel. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM. We are on myjoyonline.com and all our social media platforms. As always, here on The Probe, your views are very much welcome. You can join us with all your thoughts and your comments via WhatsApp, on all our social media platforms. You can join us with your thought. But let's get into education and all the statistics that we've been able to gather when it comes to education. And a focus on early education, I'll start with. When it comes to KG, we are told that 10% of children of KG-aged children are not in school. 10%, we are told. And we have inadequate teacher learning resources. And that's a fact. The issues about teachers, the issues about pedagogy, and then, of course, infrastructure. We can't talk about it enough. This is the situation, at least the whole picture. And the focus on the basic education, where we stay there, we have a high dropout rate. We're told it's about 30%. 30%, that's the high dropout rate that we have. And we have 1 million out-of-school children still at the basic. 1 million of them are out of school. And that's the statistics as we have it. Going on, 15% only of public basic schools have ICT facilities. 15% out of the 100%. And then we have 1 million desks deficit. And when you saw the Crumbling Start, most of them were sitting on the floor. Some of them actually write on the floor. 1 million desks deficit at the basic education level. And then the state of Ghanaian schools, basic schools under trees. We've been talking about this since I was a toddler. The issues about schools under trees. About 5,400 schools still under trees as we speak. 5,400 under school. And 80% of these are located in the northern part of Ghana. 80% of schools under trees up north. And then we'll talk about budgetary allocation, basic education, from 2014, the statistics as we have, all the way to 2024. And these are figures that I'm sure I don't want to bore you with, but it started from 2014, we have 2.58 billion. This is amount in billions. Then it goes up, you see the drop in the graph, and then drops again. 2019, we had a 4.39 billion. Then in 2021, we had 4.72 billion. Then 2024, we had 5.71. At least that's the highest we've seen, at least with a basic graph understanding. We have 2024, 5.71 billion. That's the budgetary allocation. But whether they actually received it is another issue. That's the budgetary allocation. Now I focus on secondary education. WASI more practice is something we've been talking about. The free SHS double track system, blue and green, we are told at some point it was abolished. Then we have the issues about feeding in particular. Feeding, I've reported a countless time when it comes to feeding. And then also the issue about school placement. Then we're told it's been digitized, but still there are issues here and there. And then the curriculum and the teacher learning resources we've been talking about. At some point we're told about it's a change in curriculum, but whether really they have the learning resources for the teachers and then the adequate teachers as well is also the issue. That's the focus on secondary. Now, the secondary cycle education budgetary allocation, we've looked at the basic. Now, let's look at the budgetary allocation for the secondary level. From 2015, 684 million. Then we see that, and then there's a drop in 2022, 1.545 billion. Then in 2024, we had a rise again to 2.62 billion. 2023 was 2.24 billion. Then 2024, 2.62 billion. So that's how it's been from the millions. Then we've risen all the way to the billions at least, obviously because of the free SHS. Now the focus on tertiary, we have low gross tertiary enrollment of about 12% against target of 40% by 2030. Then we have financial access barriers, we have accommodation deficit, inadequate financing of tertiary institutions. Well, these are issues that we'll be talking about. And then at the Ministry of Vetting, we've seen the new minister, Haruna Idrisu, talk about 2,800 schools need fixing due to overcrowding, he says. What exactly is he going to do about it? It remains to be seen. He says 26,000 schools have no changing facilities for girls for hygienic purposes. That is very key, very important. Then he goes on to say there will be a review of pedagogy and curriculum at all levels of education. These are issues we've been talking about in the last part of the year until now. And then he says they intend to build at least one model STEM school in every region of Ghana, which will span from kindergarten to senior high school to produce individuals for the future of work. That's the new Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, and some of the things he mentioned during his vetting, and then promises to work towards achieving equity in education sector. Basically, these are some of the highlights of things he said when he appeared before the vetting committee. Now, education budgetary allocation, like a comparative analysis that the Joy Research team has been doing. 2019-2016, the green, this is how it looked like, 1.69 billion, 7.55 billion, 346%. That's how it looks like. Now, in the blue side, 2017 to 2024, I bet you understand why it's blue and why it's green from the NDC and then the NPP. Then this is how it looks like. We have 8.33 billion 2017, then 29.5 billion in 2024. It gives us a 254%. Now, make of it what you will. These are the figures, a comparative analysis when it comes to education budgetary allocation. We will get to see what happens in 2025. We're expecting the budget to be read sometime in March. We'll get to see what exactly happens. But focusing on education, I've told you that last week, just the week gone by, we saw the National Education Forum begin in my dear region, is the Volta region, and it kicked off, and we'll be talking a bit about it. Dr. Samuel Oku is my guest. He's a member of the National Education Forum, joins me in studio. We'll be getting into it, and then also take a look at the crumbling start, some of the pictures and some of the things that my colleague Emmanuel Jivenu found. But of course, we have the hosts for the region who actually helped that National Education Forum to kickstart, and that's the Volta Regional Minister, Mr. James Gunu. Thank you so much for your time here on the probe. Really, I was hoping we could talk to you about the Education Consultative Forum, but there are other pressing issues that I'm hoping that we could tackle with you. But I'm sure overall, how would you say the National Education Forum went? It was in your region. Overall, how would you say it's been?
Thank you very much, MFR. Let me say good evening to your audience. The National Education Forum was a successful program, and as you indicated, it was held in our regional capital, who also known as the Oxygen City. So we are sure that the education will get some oxygen in order to survive. We are looking at a sustainable future. And if you want to ensure sustainable future, it is only good that we use education as the vehicle towards that sustainable future. So it was a great success. And as indicated by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the outcome of this particular forum will not be left unattended to. Government attach great importance to this particular exercise.
Eoko will take us through since he's in the studios with us. But one most important is the issue about the River Toje and, of course, the pollution that we reported of last week. What exactly are we doing about it? Where are we when it comes to that situation? Because some have said the Volta Lake undoubtedly is the safest river in the country now as we speak, in the face of all the illegal mining that we're seeing. But to hear that report, what exactly is the situation, that agrochemical spilling we are told about?
Yeah, thank you very much once again. We received a report of a vehicle, a truck, that had an accident in the Republic of Togo in a town called Tove. And unfortunately, the agrochemicals poured into the river Toji. So quickly, we communicated this to the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, the Food and Drugs Authority, the Environmental Protection Authority, the Fisheries Commission, all to come in and do their assessment to see the level of pollution. Interestingly, I have a report from the Fisheries Commission. Others are yet to give us their report, though. I had a briefing also from the Community Water and Sanitation Agency. But what I received from the Fisheries Commission, after they went on the field, they did a field assessment, stakeholder engagement, site observation, and sample collection. They observed that no mass fish mortality was detected at the time of their assessment. They also indicated in their report that fish exhibited normal activity, no visible sign of distress, no visible sign of distress. And then also, they've not experienced any unusual odor in the river. So they have concluded their report that, let me read what they have given as a concluding report. Preliminary observations suggest no immediate threat to aquatic life. However, laboratory analysis will determine whether or not residues are present. Recommendations will be made based on scientific finding. So, in effect, the Fisheries Commission is saying that they have not detected any, pollution that probably might have affected the fish in the river Toji. I'm waiting to hear from the environmental protection agencies as well, or authority as well, to see, putting all these reports together, what the end result will be. But what we also did to assist the people of Agotime, Zopi areas who rely on this river for domestic use and other, is to supply water using water tankers to them. Now that we are getting reports that there is no pollution coming from the experts, I believe within the next few days, we can comfortably, allow the use of the water for domestic use and other activities.
Okay, so within the next few days, you say, but it's unclear when exactly they can start, because the directive that was given to them was to desist from any activity when it comes to those who are living in those areas. So within the next few days, do you know exactly when they can resume? And were we actually enforcing that directive?
Yes, we have done a lot of public education along the river.
Okay.
So I believe by Wednesday, all other stakeholders will come to the table to finally indicate the way forward.
So if I consumed any fish from any of the affected areas that we've mentioned, I'm safe, per the report that you received? Because they say there's no
so far,
threat to
the
aquatic
report coming
life.
from the Fisheries Commission suggests that the river is safe, and the fishes in the river are not, under demonstrating any visible sign of distress, and there is no mass mortality of fish identified in the river.
Okay. Well, that's some good news there, but I'm sure you are still doing further checks to ensure that there's no danger to those who live around that area, and by extension, those of us who may consume anything from that area. Indeed.
Definitely.
Okay.
That's what we are doing. That's what we are saying, that definitely we need the people to be aware of this development. And now that the experts have come up with some report, let's rely on the report and move on.
Okay.
Finally, as indicated, the other authorities will also do their checks and finally will see the way forward.
Okay. And just before we let you off, you've been busy also with the Sokode situation, the clash between students of Sokode and residents. We've seen that the school has been closed, amongst others. What exactly is the direction when it comes to the situation at Sokode?
Yeah, thank you very much. This morning we received a report of a clash between the community and the students of Sokode Senior High Technical School. So quickly, the police went in to restore law and order. But we realized that the life of the student and the properties must be safe. So the Regional Security Council quickly did some consultation, and we came to a conclusion that the school should be closed down temporarily.
Okay.
And the students have all been sent home. We were there to supervise till 6 p.m. this evening. So there's no student on campus as we speak. About 22 people were injured, including 19 students, 2 members of the community, and then 1 journalist. And all these people have been treated and discharged. So the situation is currently under control.
But what exactly necessitated this? How did we get here? What exactly led to these clashes?
We have actually directed the Ghana Education Service to constitute a committee to investigate the matter quickly and come out with a report. But initial observation suggests that there is a breakdown of relationship between the community and the school authorities, and so I will not go into detail because the issue is still under investigation. So we believe that at the end of the day, we'll get to know the facts or the causes of this particular matter.
But how long will the school remain closed, knowing that it's going to also affect teaching and learning?
As long as we are sure that, there wouldn't be any such issue coming up again, the school will reopen. I'm also told that the school is supposed to vacate next week. So this is early vacation for the students, and we believe by now some of them are with their parents and they are safe. Those who are on their way to their homes, we wish them safe journey back home, and we look forward to seeing them on campus in the next few weeks to come.
Okay. Mr. Agono, we are indeed grateful for your time. Akpe Kaka. That's the Volta Regional Minister, James Gunu there, joining us via Zoom. We are grateful. And giving us updates on the river, Toje pollution, amongst others. But we're still focusing on education. We started off from the National Education Forum. And I think we can set the tone better with excerpts of Crumbling Start.
For pupils of Sambonjida DA Basic School, having a teacher is a privilege.
This man here.
2 trained teachers shoulder the responsibility of educating pupils from kindergarten to basic 6. Volunteers like Thomas, a senior high school graduate, step in to assist, but the results are troubling.
So I'm coming here to teaching ABCD, to describe yourself, to the 1, 2, 3, 2. So that's why that I'm coming to be teaching for my children. A, B, C. Oh, sorry. A, B, C, D.
Thomas tries his best, but his grasp of the English language and teaching methodology raises concerns.
K, M.
In one instance, the alphabet L was missing from the blackboard. Worse still, pupils are thought to pronounce M and N the same way, and these children repeat these errors with confidence.
H, I, J, K, N. N.
This is heartbreaking. These children are set up to fail before they even begin. I could not stand by and watch the blunder persist, so I intervened.
There's an alphabet missing. What's
H, I, J, K, N.
L? So where's L? L is not there. So write the L there. Write the L. Okay, so this how to write the L. L is written this way.
The situation grows grimmer.
Yeah, you get it.
I get it.
The school has only 3 classrooms, forcing 2 different classes to share a single space. Teachers struggle to maintain focus and discipline while handling multiple levels at once.
We are lack of teachers. The whole school from KG1 to P6, we are only 2 teachers. Imagine, if you compare with me, the KG2 to P6, 2 teachers taking from KG2 to P6 is a burden to the teachers. We have KG1 to P6. And when you look at the structure standing there, is 2 classes in 1, which is very difficult for a teacher to be inside 1 class with 2 classes combined teaching.
For pupils in kindergarten, their classroom is nothing more than a fenced area with blocks intended for construction now serving as furniture. These blocks were donated 5 years ago during the height of campaigning, but they were never used as promised.
The little furniture there, they all like to sit on it. It will be a problem. They'll be there fighting, beating each other. Then if I didn't go there and arrange the blocks, I will arrange the blocks for them to those who didn't get a seat to sitting place to sit down. Then I put some blocks inside the classroom for them to sit down. Then have a learning successfully. Okay. The campaign time, the last election campaign time, that he came and molded the blocks there that he wanted to build a classroom.
Well, that's from Tatale Sanguli. Let's come to the studios. Dr. Sam Ewuku is a member of the National Education Forum. Thankfully, is spending the evening with us here in the studios. Thank you so much for staying with us here in the studios. I'm sure that what you're seeing in Crumbling Start It's not new from what stakeholders have been telling you. You've been in the education sector, really. How come we still have such a situation in this country?
Thank you very much, Mafa. And good evening to your cherished viewers and listening public. It's saddening to see things like that and to know that we are in Ghana in 21st century. Having experience of how other countries are dealing with education, I think I will not be far from saying that there's some level of wickedness being shown. That is my opinion generally.
Yeah.
And considering the stats we've shown earlier as well,
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why this forum is very important. So far, we have gathered from people that they know the issues,
Okay.
but how do we solve them? I think that is critical.
So is it the case that stakeholders actually came to paint the picture about what the problems are? Do they have solutions as well?
Yes. Before we even started the forum, we have to plan. In our planning stage, there are three main things we did. The first one is to engage with the literature, starting from the Education Strategic Plan 2018-2030. Also look at the social contracts that the current government signed with the people, that's a manifesto. What are the education provisions or promises that are in the manifesto in relation to what we found in the literature? And at the end, we came out with 5 pillars. And what we are seeing here is one of the pillars, actually, as an infrastructure. Our engagement is asking the question, right, we know the issues, but tell us the issues. And we are encouraging everyone that if you mention one issue, come out with 3 possible solutions. And out of the 3, tell us your preferred recommendation solution. And that's the journey we are on, trying to harvest the wisdom of the people as to how we can advise government to turn things around. We cannot be in a country that's seeking to develop that we have majority of our young people not receiving quality education. This will now try as much as possible not to share my opinion, because my opinion doesn't matter. We have 36 million people in this country. They are the ones who need to speak out and tell us exactly what they want to see changing in the education sector. We have a theme, transforming education for a sustainable future. We use the word transformation because that encompasses the whole idea of reform as well. We want to encourage government to make bold decisions based on the data we are receiving so far, to revolutionize the way we see education in this country. To some extent, go back to how we do or we were doing education, where the community take ownership of their schools, making sure that teachers have resources to do their work, teachers are motivated, and everybody take ownership of what is happening in their community in terms of education. I think that's the kind of feeling we are getting so far from the data that we have collected. But the long and short of it is that education must be inclusive. It must be accessible to everyone, wherever they are. And it must be equitable. And above all, there should not be any child in any part of this country who will be receiving anything less than quality education. And as a country, you must come together to define what that quality actually means. Does quality mean passing WASSCE exam or BECE? Does it actually mean that? Or is something beyond that? And during the consultation, we are trying to find out all of this. What does it actually mean when we talk of quality education in Ghana? Accessibility, what does it actually mean? Is it children just walking to school, sitting under a roof, coming back home? Is that what we mean by accessibility? The northern and the southern divide, rural and urban divide, urban and urban divide. All of that, how do you close the gap? There's a gap that exists. How do you close the gap? So those are the kind of questions we are asking. and encourage everybody to contribute to.
Okay. Well, with a crumbling start, we've just started. That's the first series, actually. And definitely, I'm sure we provided to the forum also, so that at least you have the real picture when it comes to the situation on the ground. And we'll be heading to the Northeast District, also on this Gonja District in the Savannah region on this. And thankfully, Mohammed Tahiru, he's the Deputy Director of Education in charge of Human Resource in the Northeast Gonja District in the Savannah region, thankfully joins us via Zoom to also tell us if what we will see in his area will be any different from what we saw in Tatale Sanguli. Mr. Tahir, we are grateful for your time here on The Probe. We won't take too much of your time, but we just want to have an understanding of what exactly the situation is, at least at the basic level, in your area. Paint a picture to us. How serious is the situation, or it is better? You would have to unmute.
I hope you can hear me now.
Claire, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good evening to you, and good evening to your beautiful listeners all over the country and beyond. Yes, in fact, they say we are living in a global village. So what happens in the other end of the country usually affects others at the other end. So we can say that we have similar challenges, but it depends upon how we tackle them. Because when it comes to look at the teacher deficit, I think we share similar problems here. You look at the environment of the classroom, and you compare that with our environment here, and you can see that things are similar. Furniture deficit, the same thing. But thank God we are part of the district that were carved out in 2019, and we're young but improving. In our case, in most of our classrooms, we do not lack teachers to an extent that we use volunteers or service personnel to engage our children.
But that's where we saw a problem, a challenge, for instance, in Tatale. We have a volunteer who was actually teaching the children the wrong things.
Yes. I think that is, we don't experience such a thing here in Northeast Gonja District Education Office, or maybe Northeast Gonja District entirely, because we put some measures across to make sure that we have teachers who can handle the children very well. Quite apart from the trained teachers, we put measures across to make sure that we build the capacities of our children, our teachers. We work with NGOs such as School for Life. We also have Plan International Ghana supporting us. We also have Lively Minds also supporting us. So our teachers' capacities are always attended to. We build the capacities of our teachers to be able to handle the classrooms in the best way that they can, so that the children can get quality education. So, and moreover, we also make sure that we deploy teachers to these schools where their services are needed. As a result, we always have teachers in the schools, even if they are not adequate, but they will be able to use multi-grade teaching approach to be able to attend to the learning needs of these children. So our situation is not as bad as the one that we have witnessed.
Okay.
We will put things, certain things in place to make sure that at least we mitigate such problems.
Well, so we've had a member of the National Education Forum, at least they're taking all the views. And for them, once you mention the problem, they are hoping that you can give them 3 solutions or alternatives as to how to deal with the issues. For you, I know the issues are about your desks. You've talked about the fact that even though you don't have teachers, you have volunteers and national service personnel. You have infrastructure in terms of your classrooms and all. They are okay?
No.
The man is here taking
okay.
all the views.
We have problems with the classroom structures.
Okay.
Yes, we have problems with them. But in recent years, Assembly came to our aid and provided a number of classroom units in most of the communities where we had no classrooms at all.
Okay.
And in some of the communities, we have pavilions that we have cladded to use as, to some extent, good classrooms. We still have some communities that need these structures, but then we can say that work is in progress in some of them.
Okay.
And yes, and maybe very soon we may have them. Even in Kwalbi Town, that is the district capital, we have 2 6-unit classrooms being put up. It's almost at the completion level, and very soon I think it will be put in good use. We also have a tall girls junior high school at full, but in recent times we're in discussions with the district assembly, and we're hoping that this particular academic year it will be available for use.
Okay. Well, we'll then leave it here for now. Mr. Tahiru, thank you so much. And since we're yet to air yours in terms of the Crumbling Start, your episode, and definitely I'm sure once we air it, we'll get to interact with you a bit more. We are grateful. That's Mohammed Tahiru, is the Deputy Director of Education in charge of Human Resource at Northeast Gonja District in the Savannah region. And thankfully, Abdul Fattah Abdullah is the Assistant Director, Tatale Sanguli District. We've aired his episode, and thankfully he also joins us via phone. Briefly, we'll take his views on what has changed since we aired his episode. We are grateful for your time. Mr. Abdullah, thank you so much for joining us. Well, your situation...
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
What I saw from the schools in Tatale Sanguli, it was so disheartening. From KG1 all the way to P6, you have just 2 teachers, and the children are crowded in the classrooms amongst others. Has anything changed since we aired that episode? And what exactly are you doing? How are you coping? These are your children on the screen.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. As my senior colleague already alluded to most of the challenges bedeviling education in their district, I think the same thing applies to us. In the specific case, I think you are referring to Sabonjida community in the Tata Sanguli Assembly, right?
Yes, Sabonjida.
Yes, in the specific case of Sabonjida, I think your reporters, when they got there, they realized there were blocks that were being molded by the former MP. And what it means is that there was every attempt to put up a classroom block for the community. But whatever happened subsequently, the assembly is not able to speak to it because the blocks are there. It's not today or yesterday that they got molded. They have been lying there for a very long time. The issues that have come to our attention, they are really so disheartening. And unfortunately, we've not been able to capture it in our budget. What it means is that immediately getting it fixed is going to be something that we wouldn't want to promise. But fortunately, we have the SOCO project. It's a 5-year project. It has a lifespan of 5 years. And I think since the issue came to the attention of the Assembly, I think this year we've already rolled out projects that are going to be implemented this year. And since the Assembly is worried about it, I think the Assembly going forward is looking at how best we could include it in our subsequent budget so that we can get the Sabonjida community a very befitting classroom blocks for that catchment area so that our children can have a very befitting classroom infrastructure to learn. So for now, like I said, it's unfortunate we've not captured this in our budget, but we've already rolled out projects for this year. But
Okay.
I am sure the assembly is ready to do something about it, even though it is not immediate.
Well, but how about
Yes.
the volunteers that you have that are also incapacitated? I should say they are also needy in some regard in terms of what they are teaching the children. Is it the case that they need more training? I know that you don't have teachers; they are helping, but if they end up impacting wrong knowledge into the children, it's a cost-90 job done, isn't it?
It's serious. In fact, when it came to the attention of the assembly, my boss, the coordinating director, was really disheartened. It even had to take some of us to look for the gentleman's number to call him and to find out what sort of work he was doing there, even though to some extent he was helping, but it was so serious. So the assembly going forward will liaise with the Ghana Education Directorate, the District Education Directorate, to see how some of these volunteer teachers, their capacity can be built, so that even though they seem to be assisting, they should rather be causing more harm than good.
Okay.
So in the very immediate, as a very immediate strategy, this is what the assembly is looking at.
Okay.
We'll liaise with the District Education Directorate, the little support that we can give to them, so that the capacity of these volunteer teachers or these volunteers can be up a bit, so that when they are assisting, they are really imparting the needed information and not actually polluting the children. The assembly is really very worried about that particular documentary that was captured, and I think we intend to do something about it.
We are grateful. That's Abdullahi Fatau. Abdullahi, definitely we'll be watching the situation in your area. That's the Assistant Director of Education, Tatale Sanguli District. There, we've been airing his episode, The Crumbling Start, on this. Really, it's a crumble fest, like Noteria is putting it. And thankfully, Dr. Samuel Oku is still with me in the studios. So let's talk about the issues that have come up. What are the top ranking issues that stakeholders have put before you would say?
Yeah, thank you very much, MFA. I will first of all mention the five. Earlier I said there are 5 pillars we are looking at. We call them transformation pillars. So the first was the infrastructure. And what the earlier speakers are saying is also true that we got to be asking ourselves critical questions. For example, how should our classrooms and school building of the future look like? Immersive pavilion, is that the kind of building we want for our students, our children? What is good in the south should be good in the north as well. If we put in our model classrooms here in Accra, then we should have similar ones. I'm not saying all schools in Accra are of the standard we want it to be, but as stakeholders, as citizens, we need to define what kind of classroom do you want our learners to be learning in. Agree on that, have the plan so that anytime anyone want to put up a school building somewhere, they should follow that plan. And that's the question one of the questions we are asking. Now, apart from the physical infrastructure, we are also talking about technology. As a technological infrastructure that needs to be in the school for our learners to use. Yeah. How should that look like? Right. Then the second pillar, talking about education quality provision. This is where you have all the reforms, curriculum reforms, assessment reforms, accessibility, inclusion, school leadership. How do we reform all these, parameters for effective education, quality education across the country from KG down to tertiary level? And then we have critical questions we are asking under each of them, and stakeholders are engaging with that. And the third one is education finance. What are the innovative approaches? Should education financing be on government alone? If stakeholders are to come in, how should they come in? What should be the role of the private sector?
When it comes to this education financing, I was hoping you go through all the 5 before I come in, but I couldn't help it. Is it the bit about the SHS?
It's beyond that.
Okay.
Education in general. Right, education in general, how do you do it? You have alumni associations putting money into education. How much they put in education in the first place? Do we know? Should there be a point where, as I was reading through one of the papers we received, and I was reading yesterday in the evening, we're talking about institutionalizing alumni contribution.
Okay.
Right? That's some groups are there, they're bringing on board. How do we make, or what are the innovative approaches to financing education? Should it be the responsible government alone? And that's a question we are asking. At the end of the day, citizens will tell us what they want to see, and we'll make a recommendation on that to government. And the fourth one is talking about regulatory systems, accountability and governance. We know that you can have beautiful classrooms, you can have a robust class system in terms of curriculum being developed, assessment, all of that. But if somebody is not monitoring what is going on, we are likely not to know what is going on. As the regional director said earlier, they are going around monitoring, seeing what is happening. How can that be done more effectively? Are we saying currently the monitoring system we have is good enough?
Weak.
Right? How do we hold people accountable? The duty bearers, how do we hold people accountable? How are our schools governed? Because when you look at the hierarchy of every school, you have the board. You go to the tertiary level, it's a council. How are they governed? Is there a conflict between the governing board and the people who have to be doing operational stuff? We need to define all of that. And the final one is research evidence for decision making.
Okay.
You know, you cannot really make a decision about education and every set of economy without research. And there's a clear indication that we are lacking in that area. So how do we do it? In this manifesto, there is a proposal for research, National Research Fund. What are the modalities for that fund? How should it be set up? Those are the critical questions that we are asking under the pillars, and the stakeholders are engaging with the 5 pillars. You ask the question, what are the top, five issues coming up? The first one is about autonomy. Autonomy at school level and at functional level. Schools have autonomy to do what they need to do without excessive interference. School leaders and educational leaders having the autonomy to make decisions about their job and be held accountable for it.
That's talk about the churches taking back their schools also coming up?
We've not really seen that yet explicitly, but again, I read one of the papers this morning. I read about 5 of them today. There's 2 that mention churches making more contribution to their schools. I think one of them also actually was very explicit, saying that sometimes it's sad that you go to a school where there is a church, the church is beautiful, but the classrooms are not beautiful, right? So people are saying some of those things. But in terms of autonomy, what comes with it is that there should be procedure guidelines. Autonomy should not be a free check, but there should be a guide around it so that autonomy should go with a clear accountability structure. If you give full autonomy without accountability, then you are not likely to get the outcome you deserve. So that's the first one. The second one is about free SHS. There are divergent views about free SHS. We are early stage yet, and it's not right for me to be, because we are still engaging. I would just say that free SHS is top on the agenda, and then you have student loan. That's another one. Student loan, and whether the loan that they get is enough for them. It's economic loan, and then come to talk about Alawa as well. There are papers submitted, also divergent views
allowance
about how.
Once it's cancelled, to stay.
Not really about that, but to be honest, people are very creative in the approach they're talking about. They are suggesting various ways that they can make it efficient and effective. But at the end, we'll come out with the full recommendation that they are making. about the lack of research. I tried to say that earlier, and the need for funding for research, that also came up. And the issue about the narrowing and the southern divide, equity and inclusion is a critical issue. Teacher welfare and teacher motivation.
Very much.
That came out clearly. Professional development, targeted professional development of teachers, that came up. Teaching and learning resources, technology, edge tech in the schools. So those are some of the...
So far, though,
yeah.
Are people pushing for a new curriculum? Because the whole of last year, last quarter, second quarter, at least I've engaged with you also on our show about the introduction of a new curriculum. Advanced stages, we've done a lot of work in that regard. Is there a push for a change?
So a push more for the basic level.
Okay.
And there is a call for a value-driven education. And there's a call for foundational learning. And what's very interesting is that, globally, foundational learning, we look at literacy and numeracy. But so far, the call is that we should, Ghana's approach to foundational learning should go beyond the two.
Okay.
So they're talking about language literacy, talking about mathematics literacy, scientific literacy, and cultural literacy. So those are the 4 areas that they think will benefit us as a country. Now, if that's accepted, what that means is that it's going to trigger some kind of reform in the curriculum, right? We need to be open to that. There's a call for more use of technology, that our young people need to be technology savvy so that they can be, competitive in the global world and the world of work. If that is a proposal, if you become a proposer, depending on what we gather at the end of the day, it will trigger some kind of reform.
How much more time do you have, though, as a committee, as a committee to conclude this work? Then we'll come to maybe...
I think the time we have, what we have gathered so far is that government is want quality work done. Okay. So government is not pushing us to, we submitted a timeline, and after the national engagement in whole this week, we have the national forum, and then we also have Volta and OT forum. So that's a zonal forum that happened hosted by Ho Technical University. So the national forum happened at Volta Serene, and then we have the zonal one, Volta and OT. Okay. After that, when we finish, we quickly scan through the data. We realize the timeline, the roadmap we submitted to government, we will not be able to meet it. We have to extend it for about 4 weeks. Okay. Because the issues are coming a lot, and we don't want to rush and do shady work. It also allowed us to open up our approach. So far,
because you left some people out.
We've not really left them out. I think what's happened is more communication. Latest gone out, but even as I was sitting here, I was still addressing some of the issues. Letters have been sent, but people have not received it. And how that happened, nobody really know, right? So, what I mean is that because at national level we have groups. We have about 120 groups. Okay. So you have the unions, for example. Then you have about 4 or 5 unions. NGOs, you have about 10 of them. Development partners, you have about 15 of them. Vice chancellors, your teachers.
Separate, all the groups
so all these groups come together in a zone.
Okay.
Right. But when the issues are coming up, you look at it, the next level we do the targeted engagement. Right. So when we look at the initial issue that came, we realized we need to meet the student unions separately.
You're meeting the
right.
students.
So tomorrow we are meeting them.
Okay.
Right. And then this issue about the faith-based schools and how they should be handled is becoming very prominent in the data we are collecting. So on Wednesday, we are meeting the religious bodies separately as well.
Okay.
We are going to be doing office visits to the union because there are some issues coming up. So we are actually following the data It's more like a grounded theory research that we are doing generally. Until we get a saturation point, we do not stop. We're going to follow the issues, go deep down to know what it is, and get people's recommendation.
It looks like there's much more work there than you anticipated.
There's more work. There's more work. And then we are also planning to engage our colleagues in diaspora.
Okay.
So that's also good to have, because there are some of them actually came in Accra event on Friday. 2 people came from the UK. And conversing with them, we realized there will be need for us, even though it's in our terms of reference. We're thinking when we finish everything, we will then get to them. And then we have 2 of them who came to give the keynote address. One from the UK, one from Australia. Right, they gave the keynote address, and these people came. Nobody bought ticket for them. We just called them, and they say. So that tells us those people in this diaspora as well, colleagues, our friends, our families in diaspora, they are keen to see a transformational education in Ghana, right? For the benefit of everybody.
How are you hopeful? How hopeful is the team that at the end of the day, that whatever it is that you're able to do, this research work, this gathering of information and everything and the recommendations, how hopeful are you that government is able to implement?
It's something that Honorable Gunu, is it Gunu, the regional minister for, say that President made a clear assurance that this will not sit on the shelf and gather dust. I think that's something that some of us have been advocating for a very long time, that we do policies and we do fanfare, launch them, at the end, they're not implemented. And I've been saying personally that when you walk on our continent is like a forest of policies, right? When you walk through them, you will not see any fruit, because the ingredients that we need to put in place for the trees or the policies in the forest to bear fruit, we don't do them. After we launch, we leave it like that. But we are not getting that from President His Excellency John Mahama. He's committed to implement. That's why, 1, we are going to submit a comprehensive report. 2 is a policy framework. And the 3rd one is the costed action plan. Right? Anyone who is in the policy from a grassroots and asks for costed action plan, you can be sure that it will be implemented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely be engaging further since you are in the Greater Accra region now, and we would also bring some information. I'm sure, even though we've not been invited, we'll bring information. Thank you so much, Dr. Samuel. We'll have to really wrap up.
Thank you very much.
We'll have to wrap up, and we have to go. And that's all time will allow us. A fortnight edition of The Probe. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. For our radio audience, we have A Walk with Jesus, and we have Springboard coming up next. Please do stay.
Did you allow me to announce?